about just mainstream conservatives, Republicans, whatever. Once you actually understand what their arguments are or where they're coming from, it's a lot more difficult to be hyperbolic about things,
Yeah.
right? And so you kind of start seeing the world around you for what it really is. And there's a certain amount of fear that kind of starts to dissipate, a certain amount of like hyperbolic thinking that starts to go away. And you start to see things a lot more clearly. And the world isn't as messed up as people would have you believe. And that's
So, what exactly is going on with Anna?
protecting, marginalized communities, protecting the transgender community is important. However, when you move out of or move far away from making sure that they are not denied housing, making sure that they're not denied healthcare, when you move into like these more fringe areas of like, I mean, there was a story out of the UK this week, blows my mind. There was an LGBTQ group in the UK who suggested that instead of referring to uh, vaginas as vaginas because it might be offensive to transgender men, one of the potential replacements or substitutes could be bonus hole.
That is literal fucking
Bonus hole?
propaganda. This is the same shit as when Joe Rogan went out there and said, "Look, guys, a guy I know, his wife works at a school where they let the kids just shit in litter boxes because they identify as cats." That's
That, my friends, would be one of the responses to Ana Kasparian's previous takes from her former cohorts on the left. But before we go any further, we need to check out what Jink's nephew has to say about this.
Look, I think what Anna is saying in all these clips that are popping on Twitter, it's all in the same vein of like hyper focusing on like random gripes and turning it into like major points of contention, which is what right wingers do usually. You know what I mean? And they do it very successfully.
Saying that leftist media is practically a LARP, also doing a bit of a 180 on Kyle Rittenhouse, doing a bit of a 180 on puberty blockers. Yeah, factor that in with Sarah Jane Comrie calling out race baiting. I would say that Ana Kasparian has had a pretty interesting 2023 so far. Don't worry, guys. I will be leaving you the King of Nothing video that kind of details exactly how much money that Hasan Piker has given to charity. I'll be leaving that in the description box with the comment section. These lefties oftentimes have this tendency to say that they are for the poor, but then turn right back around and prove to you that once again it's another great big giant grift. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that 99.9% of us on the platform at some point in time have been labeled that, called that. It gets tossed around a lot, but then again, though, in some cases it's actually true. And of course, a lot of people are saying the exact same thing about Anna, but as I have been doing in the past few videos on her, I've been explaining to you guys that what's going on with Anna is that Anna, for the most part, is starting to take a little bit more of a rational view on some of these topics, and of course, the radical left is not exactly like this. Now, guys, we're going to go through some of these, and I'm going to tell you guys more towards the end of the video exactly what's probably going to happen as a result of this, meaning the left itself. But I'm also going to talk a lot about her, too, because there was a key phrase in the whole Stitch and Adam interview at the very beginning, which, by the way, I'll try to link that full episode in the description box for you guys if you guys want to watch it, where she said that she was much, much happier in life. It seems to me that when you're happier, you tend to be a little bit more accepting of things. You typically tend to be a little bit more open to listening to things. And I think what's really going on with Anna is that she just may be stepping outside the leftist bubble, that bubble being the echo chamber of which all these very bad ideas get kicked around. I've been saying for a long time that Cenk Uyghur's biggest problem was that he didn't talk to enough conservatives, even though he claimed to be a Republican at one time. I personally don't buy that. I've also said the exact same thing about Jimmy Dore and many, many more of those. But just because Jimmy Dore seems a lot more tolerable nowadays, that does not mean he's still not much, much more radically on the left than what Cenk Uyghur is. I've been saying for a long time that it's a great big giant grift. It always has been. And of course, Cenk Uygur's book, Justice is Coming, has still not been written. And of course, he continues to advertise that book and get people to purchase that book, even though that book has not been written. I'm pretty sure you guys are starting to get the point. So a lot of things happened at once with Anna. Of course, there was the take a while back over Sarah Jane Comrie where she called the whole race baiting thing out. Then eventually there was this take about Eric Adams. There was also a take before that over the whole stove issue, the gas stove issue in California, the green energy stuff. We've been seeing that Ana has become a little bit more, she's been a little bit more sane as of late, but that does not mean that she is fully changed. I'm pretty sure many of you guys remember the whole state lines thing. Don't worry, Kyle Rittenhouse will come up in this video as well, because obviously she spoke about getting that one wrong. And of course she had this line here to say, which by the way really set lefties off.
That's happening on the left and in media.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because, you know, a lot of them LARP is like anti-capitalist, like revolutionaries or whatever.
LARP. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it's true. And so it's really funny because what they do is they are positioning themselves to attract a very specific niche in audiences, right? So they're going for the purists, the people who like to think of themselves as like far left, communist, socialist, whatever. But like the whole thing is, I mean, you can see it in the various streams. Like they'll talk about things through the lens of we're the most pure, like we're the most sincere in what we're saying, whatever.
The real left.
Like,
yeah,
exactly, we're the real left. So when they do that, what ends up happening is they become more and more extreme in what they are saying, right? In what they claim to believe. And at the heart of that, like what they're actually doing is trying to attract a niche audience for what? You need to like shoot the gun, you need to kill people. I hear you. I wish it didn't end that way. But if I were in his shoes, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. I probably would have prayed and sprayed. So, I mean, Rittenhouse did the right thing. Like, it's a good thing he was in control of the weapon instead of me. So,
yeah,
it's funny that like, yeah, this gets thrown around a lot. Like people accuse you of grifting or other people of grifting when they start changing their beliefs, even though it's like you're changing your beliefs in a way that would like be more likely to hurt your career as opposed to help.
Don't worry, we will get to that here soon. We won't be rehashing the entire thing, but I'll explain the whole narrative of what she did that, quite frankly, was so stupid and so wrong. Of course, that there means the state lines thing, which, by the way, we've heard multiple times over and over and over again. I don't think I need to play that for you guys. But then again, at the same time, though, Sean Fitzgerald and a lot of other content creators, Nuance Bro and Devin Tracy, also did some extremely good work on that. And of course, there was the whole trans situation with this guy who claimed that everybody at TYT or Jink and Ana in particular are transphobic. Don't worry, this will be a part of the bigger theme of the video, which is when you radicalize people, they eventually become too radical to where they don't listen to reason, even when you begin to moderate your actual points. But that right there will be the broader theme of this video. So, what exactly did Ana say on Stitching Adam? Which, by the way, this was a culmination of everything that I think at some point in time was eventually going to lead up to this moment. Don't worry, she won't be on PragerU anytime soon, but what exactly did she say on Stitching Adam? Well, for the most part, she said that it was all a great big giant LARP. It was an attempt to try to get a certain type of business model, a certain type of clientele they were looking for to watch their content. The very, very far left, the most far left of the left out there. And then after a while, I guess you can kind of think to yourself that maybe waking up to the reality of what's going on in California, which is where she lives, and of course being happier in her relationship or whatnot, she's probably beginning to see that a lot of the views that she has just are not realistic. And then there is this nice little nugget here.
And you know, it doesn't make us sharper to misrepresent what the other side is actually saying. It actually makes us weaker. It is what it is. And they can get as offended as they want. They can get as upset as they want. I don't really care. I'm not a mouthpiece for anyone, any political party, any political group. My obligation is to share the facts of the story with my audience to the best of my ability, and then do good faith analysis on those stories. And if they don't like my analysis, they can make whatever decision they want about whether they support or watch the show. You know, one of the things that Jesse Singles says all the time that I love, and he says it repeatedly, is it's complicated, because it is. Like, all of these issues are way more complicated than the way they're being portrayed in partisan media. And so what I want to do is actually understand those complexities. But here's the other thing. Understand the other side in good faith, okay? Because I think that there are some stereotypes that the left has kind of bought into about what the arguments are on the other side. And, you know, it doesn't make us sharper to misrepresent what the other side is actually saying. It actually makes us weaker. If you understand what their arguments are, it'll then allow you to reflect on what your own weaknesses might be in regard to the arguments that you're making.
When they make a mistake, they just try to hide it, or they try to shift blame. Jimmy Dore very, famously shifted blame to his producer. And I thought it was really commendable that you came out and you're like, no, I got this wrong. And you were trying to show, not just do this for your sake, but to say like, listen, audience, you need to understand that this is the story. And I don't want you guys to have the wrong information.
Yeah, there was, look, the one, I guess, through line you'll notice in the various things that we're going to talk about in this conversation is that it just became abundantly clear to me that where I was getting my information, and I'm not just talking about like, independent lefty outlets. I'm talking about like legacy media outlets, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them, it's not that they report misinformation, it's that they omit details of the story that would, maybe the additional details of the story don't change your mind at all, right? But it's not up to them to decide that. Like, we should know every detail. I think the Amy Cooper story is another example. It was fairly recently I came across Camille Foster's very in-depth investigation into that story, and there were so many details of that story that were intentionally omitted or left out of the legacy media reporting of it. And that painted a picture in my mind and in the minds of many others that, there's no justification for the way that she was, panicking when she was on the phone with the 911 dispatcher, right? But then you get this, then you find out, based on what Camille Foster had found out and reported, was that like she didn't have good cell reception. So the person on the other end of that conversation couldn't hear her. She was panicking because she genuinely thought that she was at risk after, here's another thing that was omitted in a lot of the reports, after she was literally threatened by the bird watcher, right? Who said, if you're going to do it.
My honest opinion, I think she's been around a lot more conservatives. I think she's been around people who are much, much more rational. I think she's been around a lot of people who, quite frankly, have some form of common sense, even though they may be more of the classical liberal, which, by the way, a lot of classical liberals are becoming a little bit more conservative. I wonder why that is the case. Now, I'm not saying that Anna will, and I'm not predicting that Anna will become more conservative or anything like that. I'm just simply saying that Anna is starting to wake up to us to a great many things. One of those, of course, is actually puberty blockers, which I think is the one that really set people off, pay very close attention.
Straight news reporting on basically what, some of the risks could be when it comes to transitioning literal kids with puberty blockers and then cross-sex hormones. And through his reporting, which I'm very sad to say I didn't really come across until this year, I learned that I was wrong about a bunch of other things, right? So for instance, it is a lie that puberty blockers are reversible. In some cases, they are not, and they can cause irreparable harm. And look, you might think, okay, but you got to do a balancing act. And if a child or if a teenager has severe gender dysphoria, and it would actually be better for that person to go on puberty blocks. Okay, I mean, we should be able to balance that out. But my point here is withholding the information because you don't like the information getting out there ain't the way to go, because that destroys any opportunity for us to actually have a good faith debate about what we should do moving forward.
Anna has been on the whole, we should just be allowed to transition kids thing for a very long time. And obviously, after seeing Lance from the Serfs get absolutely annihilated on Tim Pool's show on this issue, and then eventually Emma Voegtlin, who also worked for TYT at one point in time, also went up there and got absolutely annihilated on the exact same topic. I'm pretty sure that Anna decided to do some more research. I'm pretty sure that a lot of this stuff has happened. And like I said before, this has been happening a lot more with her. I want to say the very first video that I did on her slight turn was back in April. So you think April to July, it's not really that long of time. As a matter of fact, if you actually do some research on a topic after a while, once you actually read into it and actually begin to learn on it, you'd be amazed at exactly how fast it will change your mind on a few things. Of course, the whole transitioning thing, we quite frankly can't really talk about here on YouTube, because YouTube will find a way to yellow tag this video, basically meaning that you can't make any money off of it. And of course, it's not just the fact that it's the money or not the money. What it really is the fact that they find a way not to promote the video as well. Even if the video is demonetized, I still want the video to go out, and the reason why is because I want everybody to kind of hear it. I want people to kind of be educated and know what the hell is going on. and kind of get a sense of what's probably going to happen. That's really what I like to do on this channel, is try to tell you exactly what's probably going to happen as a result, and try to give you guys a bit of a common sense point of view, or try to help you guys kind of rationalize what's going on. Still, though, at the same time, though, I'm pretty sure that a lot more leftists, the more and more they watch this, the more and more upset that they get. Not to mention the fact that Ana, a while back, did get into it with the whole leftist mafia, or the leftist mafia attacked him. It was a stream that had Lance from the Surfs, a couple other people, Matthew Bender, just some complete, total whack job. And you got to understand something. The more you attack somebody, the more you actually go after them, even if they do disagree with you on something, or if they show a little bit of rationality on something, the crazier the crowd gets. You see, this is the problem, and this is what I was going to eventually get to before we get to the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Here's the deal. After a while, if you have these very, very radical takes and you put these takes out there, after a while you're going to build a bit of a following. And that bit of a following is eventually going to develop the exact same personality that you have, especially if you connect with them. They're going to probably like some of the same ideas, or probably going to agree with some of the ideas. A great example actually comes from TYT. Jimmy Dore, in a lot of ways, is the result of Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian. I mean, dude. Cenk is as left-wing as you can get, but then again, at the same time, though, I also believe a lot of that is bravado. But then again, though, when you go on a plane and the plane is messed up like he did at DFW, and he live-streamed, recorded it, and he's upset that he can't board a plane even though it's got mechanical problems, yes, you probably think somebody's got some screws loose, or maybe he was trying to get some cheap views, which, by the way, I think most people who watched that video probably laughed at it because, dude, you're trying to get on a broken plane. If that plane crashes, you'll be dead. I mean, how smart are you? What's happening is that Ana is seeing what a lot of us have actually warned her and many other leftoids about, especially those who want to cancel people. I'll give you a great example of what I mean. A while back, Ethan Klein, he decided he wanted to take down his video interview with Jordan Peterson. He was reminded by Jordan Peterson on Twitter that at some point in time, the mob was eventually going to come for him. The mob did come for him twice. As a matter of fact, he even lost the sponsors one time. One of the people he insulted happened to be trans, and Ethan did not exactly, let's just put it this way here. He got canceled by his own. He got canceled by the audience that he was leaning into. We'll talk about the audience here in a second. Like I said before, this right was going to be a relatively lengthy take, so yes, there's going to be a lot of things to be covered here. The thing is this right here. Ana, I believe, is starting to actually be around people who are a little bit more moderate and have got some form of common sense. So what's happening is that she's starting to see their side of the story, their point of view. There was a video essay I saw a while back on the show King of the Hill, one of the great television shows of the 90s and early 2000s. Animated Mike Judge, of course. This was after he had gotten done with Beavis and Butthead. I'm pretty sure most of you guys remember Hank Hill, the crowd, Arlen, Texas. And she had a bit of a liberal slant, but one of the very first things that she said, and by the way, this is not the attitude of most modern liberals, or at least most modern leftists. The attitude that what she said was in the video was that she was already on the liberal side, but she was raised by conservatives and had been around conservatives her entire life, and that she very, very much understood our concerns. I think what's happening in the case of Ana is that she's been around a lot more rational, sane, and possibly even conservative personalities who don't agree with her, and they've now actually explained things to her. You see, this is the result of being inside of a bubble for so long. Now, many people are going to automatically scream that she's doing what Dave Rubin did. Dave Rubin attributes his turn to rationality due to the interview that he did with Larry Elder. I'm not so sure, especially given the fact that, Dave, I think, is a much more interesting topic, and I still have not got my mind made up on him. I do believe that there was probably some change in him, but I don't think it was a radical shift. Then again, at the same time, though, I also quit watching the Rubin Report a long time ago and just kind of just dropped Dave altogether. But still, at the same time, a lot of people are going to label her as Dave Rubin, and after a while, Ana Kasparian, after getting painted with all these insults from her own side, she's probably at some point in time going to be like, you know what, I'm not really a part of either side, any political party, any of that right there. Next thing you know, she's politically homeless. Then after that right there, she's a spokesman for PragerU. Now, guys, there are a lot of stories that Ana reported that she got totally wrong. For example, there was the Central Park Karen stuff, which, by the way, she talked about in the Stitch and Adam interview. I did not put that in this video, obviously, for the purposes of time, but there was that, okay? There was also another situation, of course, Sarah Jane Comrie. Sarah Jane Comrie, I talked about that. I mentioned it earlier in the video, how it was that she needed to, of course, call out the race scripting there from her coworker, Rashard Ritchie. There was also the situation involving New York City Mayor Eric Adams, which I talked about in the previous video that I did, which, by the way, happened to be on Ana Kasparian. By the way, to anybody out there who's saying I'm milking this for views, yeah, it's called I'm a content creator, and this, quite frankly, is what I do, my friend. So, yeah, I'm going to make a video on this chick. The exact same way I'm probably going to create more YouTube channels like I'm actually working on right now to expand the John Claymore network into great big giant topics. Yes, I know it's a very, very risky thing to do as a small channel, but when YouTube decides they want to remove certain requirements and make things a little bit easier, I guess you need to take advantage of it and show people the other aspects of your mind. Back on topic. Fact of the matter is this here. Ana Kasparian has seen enough from the left here recently to realize that they themselves are also bad, or way, way worse than what the right is. Now, me personally, when I mean bad, I'm talking about the establishment GOP. They're really and truly not that different from the establishment Democratic Party. I'm a constitutional right-wing guy. Yes, I'll go ahead and say it. I'm a constitutional conservative. That is what I am, and I am, of course, mostly America first. Meaning that for the most part, I want to put American interests first, but I do obviously understand the U.S. military. I do obviously understand our obligations to help keep the Western world safe. So obviously, I'm okay with NATO and all that stuff, but only to a certain extent, meaning that we do not need to cover every aspect of their lives, just enough to keep the area safe, and of course help them build themselves on their own to be able to take care of themselves, so that way they ain't got to call on the U.S. at every beck and call, like the situation in Ukraine, where I personally believe that that right there is an issue that NATO should be taking care of and not the United States. Back on topic. Sorry, I went on to a bit of a tangent there. Fact of the matter is this right here. Ana Kasparian is starting to see this, and Ana Kasparian is slowly but surely letting things out. But I forgot to talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, which I will do now.
About how Kyle Rittenhouse was in possession of an illegal weapon and that he crossed state lines with that illegal weapon.
No.
Okay?
Yep.
So that was a lie. And it's not a lie that I just made up in my mind, right? That was how it was reported initially, which is why I would mention the state lines, but not because, oh, how dare he cross state lines? Anyone in this country has the right to cross state lines. It was because it was reported that he was in possession of an illegal gun,
Right.
and he traveled across state lines with an illegal gun, which is a serious charge. But it turned out that he did not travel across state lines with that
Yeah,
weapon.
he didn't do that. Yeah, the weapon
Right.
was in the area already. Yeah.
Exactly. He bought it from a friend when he was already in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
The night of that event, I mean, maybe a day afterwards, Sitch and I were watching those videos online as they were breaking out. And I saw the reporting was basically wrong on CNN the night the viral videos were released. Don Lemon was saying, a white kid shoots into a crowd of Black Lives Matter protesters. And I'm like, what?
Yep.
That's insane. Yeah. So they kind of poison the narrative from the get-go. And then everyone just kind of gets caught up in it.
Yeah, and that's how misinformation spreads. And that was a pivotal moment for me because, again, misinforming the audience is not something I have any interest in. And I might give them the facts and they might not like it, but I can't withhold information from them because I'm afraid that they might not like it. So I'm going to give them the facts. But, I've learned to be better about, first of all, the sources I trust. I make an effort to just be cognizant of the filter bubbles we all exist in, the filter bubbles I exist in. And I've broken through that bubble a little bit to look at other sources that I typically wouldn't have looked at. And then the other thing that I do now is I just wait to shoot the gun. You didn't need to kill people. Right. I hear you. I wish it didn't end that way. But if I were in his shoes, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. I probably would have prayed and sprayed. So, I mean, Rittenhouse did the right thing. It's a good thing he was in control of the weapon instead of me. So,
yeah.
It's funny that this gets thrown around a lot. People accuse you of grifting or other people of grifting when they start changing their beliefs, even though it's like you're changing your beliefs in a way that would be more likely to hurt your career as opposed to.
Now, why did it take me so long to get this? I'll tell you why it took me so long to get to this. Ana Kasparian was the person that TYT trotted out there like crazy to say the same thing over and over and over again. He crossed state lines. He crossed state lines. He crossed state lines. And then, this right here was pretty revealing of how she found out how wrong she was. I don't think we need to go through everything that happened that night. I know people who still believe that Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 black guys when that was not the case. Joseph Rosenbaum was a white guy. Matthew Huber was a white guy. Gage Groschkreutz, who did not die, was a white guy. I don't have the photos here, but everybody knows by now that case right there was completely bunked from the start. The boy was never guilty of anything. He was simply defending himself. The boy showed up there to obviously protect a car lot. That's what he was actually there to do. Provide aid because he was an EMT. He was an EMT student. That's what he was there to do. He lived only 20 minutes away. His father lived in Kenosha, where his mother lived in Antioch, Illinois. Now, would I have carried my child to there? No, I would not have. But still, at the same time, though, it was a classic case of self-defense. Joseph Rosenbaum was hiding behind a car, lunged at Kyle. Kyle just simply fired back like he was allowed to do. And then Huber, for whatever reason, while Kyle was on the ground, tried to hit him in the head with a skateboard, which, by the way, if used hard enough, if swung hard enough with enough impact, would have actually killed him if it connected. Kyle smoke checked him. Then Gage Groschkreutz come over there with a gun. He's got it pointed right there in Kyle's face, and Kyle just simply pulls up, shoots him in the arm, completely smoke checks the boy. I would say his 3 shots were much, much more effective than Dr. Fauci's, but then again, though, anytime you say that, left-wingers always go a little bit crazy, which is actually hilarious, too, because obviously people like me live to trigger these types of people. But this is not the only thing that Ana has said. No. You see, now you have this controversy over the bonus hole. These lefties, man, these radical left-wingers, they love to create any and every term. You see, it went from LGB to LGBT to LGBTQ to LGBTQ plus multiplication sign, minus sign, division sign, slash, fraction, all kinds of crap, wherever they could come up with. And now they're using the word bonus hole, and they're actually going out of their way to defend it. Now, I'm going to roll for you guys a good few minutes from something that Tim Pool had brought up, I think, a couple of nights ago. Make sure you guys pay very close attention to this. We'll give some more commentary, and then we'll come back and we'll actually comment on what's probably going to happen to this entire ordeal involving TYT going forward.
With the Young Turks?
With Ana Kasparian? It's the most enjoyable thing on Twitter right now.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about it. What happened? Ana Kasparian.
Melting down.
So Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks criticized this nonprofit for calling women's privates bonus holes. And the reaction...
others, because she had a problem with being called a birthing person and stuff like that.
But the latest one is that she criticized the organization for referring to female parts as bonus holes.
Yeah.
And what happened? Many leftist commentators said she lied, made it up, it's propaganda and not real.
Yeah.
Shockingly insane and evil. Ana is correct, and I agree with her opinion. However, I do find her to be duplicitous in that we've agreed with her and Cenk on so many things, but they always pretend to oppose us, which is the weirdest thing ever. If she came in here and sat down, we would be like, you're completely right on all of your points, 100%. Yep, that's absolutely correct. We agree. We talked about the same thing. The left comes out, calls her right wing, calls them shills, and says no one's referring to it as bonus holes. So she tweets the link to it, saying, here's the organization calling women's parts bonus holes, and they still claim she's lying. Her.
Yeah.
It's about the listeners. Yeah. So what a lot of these channels do, which I'll leave. There's many of them. They just fabricate everything. They don't care either because they're ideologically or capitalistically driven. It's really fascinating. They're like, oh, I'm on the left, and they buy massive mansions in California. Complete lies. Mm-hmm. These people. It's remarkable that you look to these prominent lefties who are talking about all this. I believe in helping people and socialism, and it's like, oh, who have you supported and donated to? None. How dare you? And then you look to the quote unquote right. I love this thing about the pro-choice, pro-life argument. When the pro-choicers lie all the time. That's unfair. It's not pro-choice. It is the pro-abortion side and the pro-life side, because the pro-choicers are like in the middle and like typically now siding with conservatives on a lot of issues. I mean like actual pro-choice where they were like maybe within the first few weeks, but post-viability, no abortion. The reasonable Democrat position from a while ago. The pro-abortion crowd is just lying about everything. I forgot exactly where I was going, but that's basically the gist of it. You've got people who have found themselves silenced and in the middle as the left just says whatever it is the opposite of the right and then lies about what's actually happening to win power. I guess they were, Jimmy Dore said this, I could be wrong, that they would post photos of like upskirt shots or something like that. I don't know if that's true or whatever. It's been a while. Was that what it was?
That was Hasan. Hasan started out doing a lot of stuff like that.
Hasan used to do that stuff?
Hasan Piker used to be kind of like the upskirt. Not exactly. I'm not going to say he did upskirt stuff, but he was like early YouTube guy posting like, you know,
edgy,
cute girls, edgy stuff. Early like those
bro code kind of
guy. I remember. The Young Turks have some like dark stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But what I think happened with them is they had a large audience. The cultural shift started to happen in 2015, and they did not want to go against.
It's a tribalistic position. If you guys watch this guy's, and I still say that the Lance interview is absolutely was absolutely hilarious when he had Lance on the show. But I've actually had personal conversations with a lot of these loons. Get a load of this one right here. When Ralph Northam, and it's funny too because abortion was something they were talking about there. When Ralph Northam passed the let's see, what was it? I think it was the post-birth abortion, which is really just infanticide. When he passed that, or they were discussing that, I had a conversation with one of these leftoids, and the first thing that came out of this person's mouth was, well, what if the child was retarded? My response to him was, well, obviously your mama kept you. So, I mean, right then and there, that's obviously not a reason to do this. You see, if a child was alive, a child was alive, regardless of whatever stage you have in the abortion. If the child was alive, the child was alive. There's no point in hacking the child up. I actually thought it was hilarious when he said, look, maybe what we should do is tell the mother that we killed it and sneak the baby out back. You guys know me. I'm unabashedly pro-life. I'm just telling you guys exactly how crazy these people have gotten due to people like TYT. But I do think there's actually another explanation of why that is the case. I'm going to run and roll the rest of this, and we'll talk about this, and we'll talk about what happens next.
Because money was more important, so they just went along with whatever the current thing was, but eventually you break. Eventually the left starts advocating for insane things like post-birth abortion, unrestricted abortion, calling women birthing persons, and have bonus hole havers. And eventually you're just like, this is insane. The problem I have with the issue I take with the Young Turks is that they're still trying to pretend to be a part of whatever the left is. Yeah, they'll say things like, well, we are on the left because we believe in universal health care. It's like, oh, so do I. And I've talked about that quite a bit on this show. And they'll say, yeah, well, you know, we're pro-choice. I'm like, that's funny. So am I. We've had debates. Me and Seamus discuss this all the time. They're lying. They're still lying. Even though Anna is pushing back against lies on the left, they still lie and pretend that they're not in agreement with us on a lot of issues. They still pretend to support things that are completely untrue. Even when Anna says something that's correct, as soon as someone on the right compliments her or says, here's what you're right about, she'll come out and say, yeah, well, you know what, but I'm still not on the right and I disagree with you. It's like, just stop. This whole like desperate need to be on the left is so annoying. That's why I'm
really
like...
quick, going back to Jink's nephew, I do want to say this really quick. Jink's nephew, and you will see that in that King of Nothing video that I've got put in the description box. Jink's nephew was very, very much one of the bro code dudes who used to espouse all the typical comments that straight white men like myself get labeled as misogynistic. That's the truth about Jink's nephew. Now, obviously, his first venture in the internet did not succeed. Mine may not succeed, but then again, every one of my ventures will, of course, succeed because at some point in time, I will make them succeed because even though my channel is small, I don't plan on giving up. But this is obviously how I originally viewed TYT and many others. TYT, for the most part, seemed like they were a bit of a comedy variety show. They just report on stupid topics, and Jink would obviously say such crazy stuff like he felt that bestiality should be illegal, stuff like that there. And then after a while, the culture did in fact begin to change. But I think that the culture began to change long before 2015. Actually, the culture was changing in the early 2000s. As television itself and everything became much, much more internet heavy, especially with the advent of YouTube and other social media sites. And of course, when people started making stuff like pornography easy to access online, I think the culture began to change then. People were going online much, much more often, which, by the way, will become the main topics of the video essays that I've got coming out in the near future. How it is that it has made society, let's just put it this way here, everything is online, everything is through their phones. TYT obviously was doing their work on YouTube, so obviously they had to find all kinds of ways of being edgy. So eventually they started leaning more and more and more into politics, which Jink, by the way, did work for MSNBC. And a lot of their takes were just crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier and loonier and loonier and loonier and loonier. After a while, though, there will be an audience of people who actually agree with said take. There will be people out there who actually agree with what the hell you were saying, as loony, as crazy as it is, and they'll just run with the ball. Fact of the matter is that TYT, in the process, they create a lot of left-wing radical lunatics. As a matter of fact, TYT itself still does have a lot of morons that still work for them. John Adirola can't tell the truth to save his life. Emma Vagelin goes there from time to time. All she does is lie. I advise you guys go watch the videos on Gavin Long. Devin Tracy did a few of those, and of course Sean Fitzgerald did too. I advise you guys go check those out because they themselves have also radicalized people. Sam Cedar has radicalized people. Of course, conservatives. And Tim Pool's not a conservative, okay? He's more of a moderate left-winger. It just so happens to be that he's shifting more and more to the right due to the craziness of the left. That right there is what the hell is going on. Some people who were probably of that mindset have already started to come back more towards the right, more towards the center. They're saying that the Democratic Party and the left wing is absolutely crazy. Also, Rashard Ritchie, professional race baiter. I don't even call him a professional race baiter. I call him more of a cheap race baiter, but I guess the idea. And of course, you had the trans person who went on to do a 30-minute Twitter video about how it was that everybody at TYT was now a transphobe when TYT for so long pushed the trans agenda. I think what the hell is going on is that Ana Kasparian herself, not Jink, not everybody else, is starting to wake up to the reality and starting to see that, yes, their positions at TYT are pretty bad. Yes, we should not dismiss the other side of the aisle. Whereas the radical left, on the other hand, they are obviously trying to keep up the facade that we are, in fact, at war with conservatives. Can you imagine what happens if Jink fully turns? I mean, last I checked, TYT kind of started this with this whole, let's call Dave Rubin right-wing because he left. Even though Dave Rubin is not really that much of a conservative, he's more of a liberal to moderate righty. Or at least that's how his grift is constructed. Let's call Tim Pool right-wing, even though Tim Pool was actually a moderate lefty. As a matter of fact, Tim was actually a Bernie bro at one point in time. Let's call Jimmy Dore right-wing, even though Jimmy Dore is further to the left than Jink. Let's call Glenn Greenwald right-wing, even though Glenn Greenwald is further to the left than Jimmy Dore. You see how it operates. You see how it works. I mean, it's also going to lead to eventually character assassination, which, by the way, is a component of the left. This is what they do. It's a component of the American left. The progressives is how they operate. One more thing, too, about communists. They don't like to be called communist or radical communist. Okay. Communists, maybe. Nazis, definitely. Fascistic, oh yeah, if you call these people fascists, which by the way is what the hell they really and truly are, these people absolutely go crazy, which by the way I think is the next thing that's going to occur. You see, TYT has been radicalizing their audience for a while. I mean, once these people actually say something that's a small morsel of truth, because even a broken clock can be right twice a day, these people absolutely flip out and they go crazy, and they end up axing everybody who disagrees with them out of their little bubble. Next thing you know, their bubble, which by the way they think is getting bigger, is actually getting smaller. After a while, they get to the point where they quite frankly can't function. That right there is the future of the left wing in the United States. The question is exactly how crazy they will get. That right there remains to be seen. Guys, John Claymore, if you guys like this content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. If you think I've earned your subscription, please hit the subscribe button, notification bell, leave a comment. I'll see you guys later.